Welcome to the OhioRAAM Show, number 282.
Well, hello against Lee Kreider here with the OhioRAAM Show. And right now, we are just in the process of keeping hope alive among our cycling community as everything's been kind of knocked into a cocked hat. Now, be sure to check the show notes here for information on today's guest and some other information about ultra cycling. And also, we want to say a thank you, as we always do, to the people who run the time stations for the Race Across America here in Ohio. 41 in Oxford, 42 in Blanchester, 43 in Chillicothe. You won't see them this year, but next year, when you come by, we want to make sure that you give them a warm welcome. They work so hard. With that, we're going to travel over to India to one of my friends I haven't talked to for a while, Divya Tate. Good morning, Divya. Oh, there's your cat.
he chose this
backside.
moment. Right. Thank you.
What a beautiful cat.
Oh. Yeah.
Do you have more than one?
I have 3.
You have 3 cats. Okay.
I have 3 cats. Yeah. Right. And
Very
he
good.
chose the right moment to photobomb our interview.
Well, Divya got started and heads up ultra cycling in the country of India. So tell me a little bit, Divya, what's going on with you personally? How is all this pandemic affecting you in your day-to-day life?
So for me personally, it's been a little ups and downs. On the upside, I was kind of glad to be forced to just stay at home and attend to some of my personal stuff, which has been neglected, and just catch up with myself. So for some time, it was good. And then there have been some downs because one is just not able to get out and enjoy the outdoors. And I'm such an outdoors person that not even being able to go for a walk on the hill has, or cycle, the roads are empty, and not being able to cycle has been a bit of a downer. But yeah, one is just, waiting for things to pass.
Now, I want to get into a little bit about how this affected your races, but go over for me and for everyone watching, what races does Inspire India conduct?
Sure. So the first race that I started under the Inspire India organization company was the race called Deccan Cliffhanger, which is approximately 400 miler, which goes from my hometown to the coastline. And that's usually conducted in the month of November. This year in 2020, we'll be conducting our 8th event. It's been seven editions so far. And after I started that one, I also introduced a race called the Ultra Spice Race, which is 1750 kilometers. I don't remember quite how much that converts to in miles.
In old money?
Sorry?
In old money.
Oh.
In England, they have new money and old money, and we talk about miles as old money.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So the Ultra Spice race is a 1750 kilometer race. It's over about 5 days. It's also a RAAM qualifier. And this year we introduced sort of a self-supported or unsupported version, which doesn't require crew. Yeah. So I think earlier last year I met up with Fred in the US and discussed with him the possibility of my introducing a non-RAAM qualifier as a part of the same event. And once I had the go ahead for that, we were able to do it this year. So that race has seen 4 editions, and that one is conducted in the end of January. So we just closed it a couple of months back. And the third race on the calendar is the Great Himalayan Race, the Great Himalayan Ultra, which is the world's highest RAAM qualifier, with a start point which is, I forget the numbers, but the start point of that race is higher than any other point on any race, any ultra race in the world. So that one is conducted in September, and that's going to be my first race, which is coming up after this lockdown.
Now,
So yeah.
did I recall that you had started a time trial as well, or is that just something
Yeah,
I
your
have in the
memory.
back of my head?
That's good, Lee. We did try to set up a 6-12-24 time trial last year, and we sort of ran into some peculiar kind of issues in India with that race. That race, I actually went into it thinking that would be an easy format for me to set up. And once I set up one like a pilot, I'll be able to conduct that race in many different locations around the country. But the problem that we face is on a small closed circuit to get good quality roads without too much traffic on it, in a location which is accessible to people to come to and to be able to set up the logistics in that place. So far, the venue that we identified last year ran into some sort of a trouble with a local religious pilgrimage, and we were already facing a lot of other difficulties with putting it up. I'm trying to find a circuit somewhere closer to my own city so that I can just, run the event, see how this format works, because it's a completely new format for me. So far, we have not had any luck finding a road on which we can conduct it.
Okay, I knew that I'd heard something about that, but you're just having trouble finding a venue where you can pull this off.
Yeah.
What other dreams have you got, Divya? That seems like a mountain load of stuff to do.
Yeah. Well, that's one project, and then like I said about the Ultra Spice, we ran the self-supported version. So that race and this format was a completely new format that I sort of it's a fusion of 2-3 different formats that I attempted, and it's kind of it's been successful. The format logistically allows me to think of running even longer races in India. So I have, place marked a couple of races. One is the K2K Ultra, which would be around a 3,500 race from the bottommost point of India to the topmost point of India. That's one race. Then there's another race that I had planned, which was to follow the coastline, like India's peninsula. It's a sharp triangle. So the race is planned to follow the coastline. That would be another 3.5 or 4,000 kilometer race. And it's difficult for me to see how to conduct those races as crude, races, because that becomes expensive. It's difficult for me to actually oversee races like that. But with the stage race self-supported format that I came up with for the Ultra Spice, we might be able to pull off that race, but in another year or two, perhaps.
Well, sounds like you've got a lot of irons in the fire there. Just keep that fire hot.
Yeah.
Hot enough to hit them all.
Right. Yeah.
So, Divya, as I watch you on Facebook, you're quite a gardener, aren't you?
Oh, yes.
A patio gardener.
Yeah.
Tell us about your garden.
Yeah. So I call myself an urban farmer, really.
Urban farmer.
Yep. Until a few months back, I had a large space on the terrace of my apartment, on which I grew an amazing amount of things. I grew I had of course tomatoes, lots of tomatoes, and pumpkin, and I had a papaya tree which grew about 12 feet high in less than 9 inches of soil. And I'm hoping now to be able to just move out of the city and do that a little bit more. So that's one more thing in the fire.
So you're going to become a rural farmer, maybe, huh?
Yeah.
It sounds like you might be able to not have to delay or cancel anything if things develop properly, will you?
Yeah. So I just announced the calendar of events for my races. I can share the visual with you in a little while, just so people can block dates. So one of the things that happened with the lockdown, which has happened all over the world, in India, it was a sudden and complete lockdown. And in the beginning, I think people had hoped that they would be able to get out and cycle, but that's been banned as well. And people are, those who have indoor trainers are managing to train at home. Um, and usually, summer and the next couple of months after summer is the time that people train for the Deccan Cliffhanger. Initially, there was a little bit of a feeling of, disruption, but I think people are rallying around, and I was able to publish the calendar to tell people to keep their goals in mind, to keep a target going, and they're doing that. I think a couple of weeks ago, a group of them did some challenges, group challenges, 200 kilometers. One of them was Kabir Rachure, finished RAM solo last year, and he was signed up to do it again this year. Uh, so they got together and wrote together and things. So it was fun for me to watch this virtual thing going on.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about a virtual RAM.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I've got to try to figure out how can we follow it and how can we report on it.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get this group of reporters lined up around the world who give me these little short race reports.
Nice.
This is going to be something of a challenge for the OhioRAAM show.
Yeah.
But the motto of the show has been, we have co-opted Fred's mantra, improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
this is the year 2020 when cyclists around the world are going to have to learn to improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to thank you, Divya, for all the help you've given me finding guests from India to be on the show. And if you remember, a few years ago, we had an all-Indian month, which the entire month was dedicated to Indian riders. What's the next chance we'll see you here in the United States on some event?
Well, actually, this year I had planned to come for the Borrego Spring 6/12/24. I think it's in October. The dates were announced. I was in touch with Fred about that, and that was my plan. Now, with work has kind of got pushed back by a couple of months. So let's see. Now, I'm not sure whether I will travel for that race. But if it's there, it's on my radar to come.
Yeah, there was some problem with the date there in Borrego, I think. I don't know what happened, but they had to change the date. And of course, the cycling calendar kind of repeats itself, and when you move one, it impacts another, and it's like dominoes.
Yeah.
But
Lee, there was one thing that I wanted to sort of put out.
Okay.
Was to talk about the Great Himalayan Race, which is
okay.
Yeah, so it's in the first week of September, and I'm really keen. I know that a lot of racers around the globe have shown an interest in it. Because, well, I mean, it's a ultra cycle race, a RAM qualifier in the Himalayas. There's that's an attraction in itself. It's an amazing route, the exposure, those mountains, the challenges that it comes with. It's a high altitude race in which I require everybody to report 10 days before for mandatory acclimatization before the race. Even the crew requires to come in. So I'm kind of targeting this year, that if travel has opened up across the world by then, I'm really hoping that some of the international racers who are not going to be able to do RAM this year, or who have missed other races in their calendar during summer, would consider coming for the Himalayan.
Well, that race really fascinates me. I think that's a wonderful idea you
Yeah.
came up with, and it sure. And so, as I understand it, to repeat, you require a 10-day period at altitude, do you not, prior to the race? Remind me how high it is that you asked them to be.
It's 11,000 feet is the start point.
Okay, which is
Yeah,
higher than Wolf Creek Pass by
that
a few feet.
yeah.
And
In fact, I collected data of all the races to see which was the highest points of all the RAM qualifiers, and the start point of this one is higher than any other.
any others on the route, I can imagine that. Well, listen, that's a good idea. I would hope you get some international support this year. It might be an
Yeah,
opportunity. And
yeah.
again, in the show notes below, you'll see a link to Inspire India, and all the races we've been talking about are right there. If you want to learn more about them. Divya, thanks for taking some time to be with me.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you so much.
always a joy to talk to Divya Tana.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Lee.
Gregory Zuber speaking. Thank you for your likes and shares.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.